with the United States and the West. The Iranian people love America and hate this regime. After its collapse, instead of death to America, the world will find a nation that embraces America as a true friend. President Trump brokered the Abraham Accords, bringing peace between Arab nations and Israel. I see extending this idea to a free Iran through what we could call the Cyrus Accords, honoring our ancient heritage of tolerance and partnership. The possibilities are endless. There will be a peaceful, stable, and orderly transition. My team of experts have developed a plan for the first 100 days after the regime's collapse and the long-term reconstruction and stabilization of our country. It is backed by business leaders and provides a detailed roadmap for national recovery. Restoring economic confidence, ensuring that essential services continue uninterrupted, and laying the foundation for prosperity in a free Iran. A constitutional process will follow under international observation, allowing Iranians to finally determine their own destiny through free and fair elections. A free and democratic Iran that emerges will live at peace with our neighbors. It will be an engine of growth and opportunity in the region and the world. There are moments in history where the moral imperative for action is so strong that the weight of inaction becomes unbearable. This is one of those moments. The people of Iran have risen to reclaim their country. History will honor those who stand with them. Long live Iran. Thank you.
Reza Pahlavi will reply to them. I'm going to call firstly Ardavan, who's first from Iran International.
This moment, we have millions of Kurdish right now. Show that by asking in Farsi. For your allies, that you must follow the message. And use that right to those in the مردم بیرونها نفر در خیابان با پیام شما مسیر این در واقع اعتراضات به انقلاب تبدیل شد و حالا این مردم در حال مبارزه هستند با امید شما و رهبری شما. سوال من در این لحظه اینه شما چه چیزی برای گفتن در این لحظه به ایرانیانی دارید که در حال مبارزه هستند؟
دیدیم که همیهنانمون با شهامت و شجاعت و با اتحاد و جمعیت میلیونی در خیابانها باعث عقب نشینی نظام شدند، به حالی که رژیم مجبور شد دست به سرکوب وحشتناکی بزنه و اون هم با استفاده از عوامل بیشتر خارجی تا عوامل خودش که خیلی حاضر نشدن برای سرکوب سر کار بروند. این نمونه و علامتی است از قدرت مردم و ضعف نظام. البته ما اکنون مواجه با شرایطی هستیم که نیاز به کمک هم داریم و برای همین هست که من به جامعه بین‌المللی هشدار میدهم که اگه بخواید جلوی جنایت بیشتری رو بگیرید، اگه بخواید جان کمتر افراد از بین برود و این حکومت زودتر سقوط کند به نفع آزاد شدن مردم ایران، بهتر است که سکوت را جایگزین عمل بکنید و فراتر از صحبت و سخن عملاً از این مردم حمایت بکنید که یک فرصت واقعی برای پیروزی نهایی داشته باشند.
Can you introduce yourself? Excuse me, sir. Can you just introduce yourself then?
It's also an undeniable truth that when your father ran the country,
concerned that under your leadership, they would be swapping one dictator for another?
First of all, I let historians write history. I'm here to make history, not to write it. Second, you hear the Iranian people standing behind me and calling my name. This doesn't occur incidentally. They have known my track record. They know my unwavering commitment to democracy and human rights. This has been my position the day I started and remains my position to this day. They know they can trust me because they've never seen me waver from this. And ultimately, what I'm trying to make sure is the final element that will prove to the Iranians that are in full control of their own destiny, is to turn power back to them, a power that has been taken away from them by this regime, which we are fighting today. That's my commitment, and they can trust me on that.
Bloomberg. No, I've called Bloomberg, please. Is a gentleman or lady from Bloomberg? No? They asked a question. No, Reuters, please. Oh, there's a microphone just coming.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Riley Johnson from Bloomberg. Are you having any further conversations with Witkoff or the Trump administration?
Look, these are sensitive times, and I'm not going to discuss details of who I'm meeting with and what has been discussed. What I can tell you, however, is that there's strong support for the Iranian people, and I believe that President Trump is a man of his word, and ultimately he will stand with the Iranian people as he has said.
Lady from DW.
Thank you very much. I'm with Deutsche Welle, Germany's international broadcaster. Thank you so much. I have two questions. We saw a slide there saying Donald Trump help. What exactly does this mean? What do you hope Donald Trump to do? And my second question is regarding Europe and especially Germany. What do you hope for Europe does to support your cause? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Well, clearly, President Trump did say that if the regime was to hit the Iranian people hard, they would face with serious consequences. The Iranian people have taken his word as a man of his words, as I said. They know that unlike his predecessors that threw us under the bus one time, this president is not about to do the same thing. And that's very encouraging and empowering. Number two, you asked me about European countries. Look, we already are past the point of whether you should subscribe the IRGC as a terrorist organization or not. And frankly, I'm flabbergasted that there are still some countries that are not willing to take the next step, as if they are supposed to worry about how the regime would retaliate. This regime is on its last leg. It's about to collapse. And I think the world, especially the democratic free world, that champions freedom and human rights and equality of citizens, at the face of this regime brutal repression, should act now. I called for them to start acting as opposed to talking. We need your help. We need your action. We need to take all the steps that I've indicated in my opening remarks, all those 6 elements. Anything that can be done in that direction is a moral boost, and beyond moral boost, an actual act of support for a defenseless society and civilians that, as you can see, have been treated in the worst possible way. And the only hope they have is that their fight for freedom, their sacrifices, will be less loss of life based on your action to expedite this regime's collapse. That's what the Iranian people are expecting from you. And let me reiterate, as I said again, we're not waiting for you to act to continue our fight. We are. But imagine how much more we can protect more innocent lives from dying by acting and helping us today. These are critical moments that are game changers, not just for us Iranians, but for the whole world. This is what we need from you, so help us.
Reuters. Microphone over here, please.
Thank you. Humaira Pamuk from Reuters. In an interview a couple of days ago, President Trump actually expressed some doubts about your support inside Iran. How are you planning to win him over, convince him that you do have the support that you say you do? Also, you're talking about thousands of potential defectors, but the IRGC and other forces have hundreds of thousands. So how are you going to assert your control over this establishment? And are you, anytime soon, going to meet with President Trump? Are you making an active effort? Thank you.
President Trump has said that it's up to the Iranian people to decide, and I totally agree. I've always said it's for the Iranian people to decide. And I think the Iranian people have already demonstrated in great numbers who it is that they want them to lead to this transition. So I'm confident that I have the support of my compatriot, and it's for the international leaders to assess the fact on the grounds and see who is capable of doing that. I believe I can, and I have the Iranian people's support. And of course, if anybody in the world is willing to help the Iranian people achieve that goal, that's what I'm trying to do, to help them liberate themselves and attract as much support as I can internationally to be behind the Iranian people this time and on the right side of history. Now, as far as the defection goes, this campaign has started months ago. We started this, in fact, I announced it in another press conference I had in Paris a few months ago. Some of you might have heard about it. At which point we established a system whereby people who want to defect or want to access us or want to indicate their interest to join with us have a secure means of communicating their intentions to us. Since then, tens of thousands have applied. Many of them are from the security forces in Iran, police force, military, IRGC, and we are vetting them as we're speaking. And the mechanism for defection does exist, but most importantly is the principle of having an exit strategy. And on that I've said, anyone whose hand is not soiled in the blood of the Iranian people will survive regime change. We're not talking about de-Baathification. We're not talking about the disaster of post-Saddam Hussein, post-Gaddafi collapse. We're not going to have a failed state. And for me to be able to guide a smooth transition, I'm counting on security forces to be the element that keeps the country secure, protects people's lives and their livelihood, and be part of the solution. As a result, we have already seen people indicating their cooperation. We have already seen elements that refuse to be used as an instrument of repression, which is why the regime is now, as we speak, importing elements from outside the country to be the instrument of repression, as they're running out of their own forces to do that for them inside Iran. And all of this is the indication of the beginning of that collapse. Hopefully, by more support from the outside world, by a determined strike on the regime's elements that are the instrument of repression, as I stated in my opening remarks, in my opinion, that will expedite the process and will also increase the number of defections to be more rapid, so that we are not faced with remnants and pockets of resistance as much as possible. There's never going to be 100% defection, but there comes a point where the regime sees it's futile, and hopefully by then Khamenei will be joining Bashar in Moscow and will be rid of him.
This gentleman here.
So, good morning. Thank you. Ben Leo from GB News in London. In London, sir, in England, we have Iranian sleeper cells on their way to the Israeli embassy accused of trying to blow up the embassy. We have a former Iranian government minister living in North London, living in a council house, actually, who supported the fatwa on Salman Rushdie, praised Soleimani, so on and so on. Why is it in Britain's interests, and indeed the West, for this Islamic regime to fall, please?
Look, I'm sorry, could you repeat? I want to make sure I understood your question. Could you repeat it, please? The end
Yeah,
part?
we have lots of Iranian sleeper cells and activity
Right.
in London.
Right.
3 people were arrested trying to blow up the Israeli embassy. Some months ago, there's a former government minister living in North London who supported Soleimani, backs the fatwa on Rushdie. We have lots of Iranian activity in the UK connected with the regime here in Iran. Sorry. Why is it in Britain's interests and the West's for this regime to fall?
Right. Well, I'm glad you asked the question because, in fact, one of the topics that I raised in some discussions I had the last time I was in London with former prime ministers was exactly to explain to them the mapping of every instrument that the regime is using under Khamenei's direct supervision through so-called centers through which they antagonize British citizens and, of course, many of those sleeper cells that you indicated. It doesn't stop in England, by the way. They are in America as well. So we're trying to explain to various governments the whole methodology that the regime is using with assets they have on the ground in respective countries, not to mention money laundering that goes on in many countries, including in Great Britain. So there are many ways that they can push back against that and protect not only the citizenry of whether it's Great Britain or America, but in what way it connects to why we need to do that ultimately by putting an end to the regime. And one thing that is now becoming even more clear, and the fact that the regime could be threatening the world as a last gasp, we should not allow this regime to catch a second wind and be able to do further damage, which is why the strike is not just needed to help the Iranian people overcome this unfair disadvantage, but it's also one way to completely dismantle the regime's aspect of threatening and cut off the chain of income that it uses to fund all of these operations, including the sleeper cells, which is why I'm also calling for any means to cut off the lifeline to the regime, which is its revenue from whether it's oil exports or whatever other means of income that they have. We need to dry the well that funds terrorism once and for all against the Iranian people and the world.
So, hello. Dan Rivers from ITV News in the UK. 2 US aircraft carriers are heading, we understand, to the Gulf, and Donald Trump has said help is on its way, but they may take up to 10 days to get there, and meanwhile more and more people are dying. Are you losing faith in President Trump?
I believe the president is a man of his word, as I said before. How many days it might take, who knows? Hopefully sooner than later. But as I said before, regardless of whether action is taken or not, we as Iranians have no choice to carry on the fight. We're halfway across the river. There's no turning back. We will continue. The quicker the action happens, the more lives can be saved, and the sooner we can see the regime's collapse. So timing is, of course, important. And I would still believe in the president's commitment that help is on the way.
But does he need to do something today, tomorrow, to help your fellow countrymen who are
Well,
dying?
I'm not the president's advisor. All I can say that Iranians are, of course, right now as we speak, witnessing the kind of massacre that has been unprecedented in human history. And this is why the urgency becomes quite clear. The timing, I leave it to the experts to decide. All I can say is the sooner the better.
Okay, I'm going to call now Ben Amini from Manitou. Microphone over here, please.
Sorry, there's too much bright light. I can't see who is where. Okay, now I see you.
Thank you. Thank you. حالا از نخستین من بهنام امینی هستم از تلویزیون منوتو. از نخستین روزهای انقلاب ملت ایران منوتو گزارش‌های متعددی از شهروندان دریافت کرد مبنی بر اینکه بخشی از نیروهای سرکوب در خیابان‌ها ایرانی نیستند. این موضوع گمانه‌زنی‌های درباره حضور شبه نظامیان خارجی به ویژه از عراق و لبنان را ایجاد کرده. موضوعی که امروز با گزارش رسانه‌های بین‌المللی درباره ورود دست کم 5000 نیروی مزدور از عراق برای سرکوب مردم ایران جدی‌تر شده. شما به عنوان رهبر انقلاب ملت ایران این گزارش‌ها را چطور ارزیابی می‌کنید و حضور اونها نشانه چیست؟ سپاسگزارم.
ببین این دقیقاً علامتی است از ضعف نظام به مفهوم اینکه حتی عوامل خودی به اندازه کافی نداره برای سرکوب مردم و مجبور میشه از بیرون عوامل خارجی رو وارد بکنه. اگه این نظام امکاناتش رو داشت از نظر ایجاد رعب و ترس نیازی به وارد کردن عوامل خارجی نمی بود. این نشانه ضعفشونه و یأسشونه. البته توحششون مشهوده. چون میدونن که به آخرین طریق ممکن میخوان در مردم ایجاد تردید و ترس بکنن. فکر کنم مردم ایران برای این ترس غلبه کردن. اما وقتی که میبینیم این نظام دست به این کار میشه اینجاست که جامعه بین‌المللی باید متوجه بشه که این نظام حتی حاضر عواملی از خارج بیاره بر سرکوب مردم خودش و تا این حد بقیه هست. به هر حال من فکر کنم که دنیا امروز تصمیم گرفته برای عکس‌العمل نشان دادن و به زودی شواهدش رو خواهیم دید. A quick translation for those of you who don't speak Farsi. The question related to the regime's importing foreign elements into Iran to use as a mechanism of repression. And I said that this is a clear indication of the regime's weakness, that it cannot even count on its own forces to do the dirty job, and it has to resort to bring people from the outside. But reason more for the world to realize that as this desperation act of the regime to try to brutalize its own people as a last gasp effort cannot be left unanswered, which is why we're calling for the world to help us out.
Thank you. AFP, please.
Thank you very much. Sean Tandon with AFP. Nice to see you. Could I follow up? The momentum, you mentioned that that's in the hands of Iranians, but at what point is it too late for the intervention that you're talking about from President Trump? Could there be the sense that he's talked for over 10 days about help is on the way? Is there a sense that that could actually weaken the momentum? And specifically, you said at the beginning that there should be targeting of the Revolutionary Guards. Do you mean necessarily military strikes? How should the Revolutionary Guards be targeted? Thanks.
Right. It's never too late. Any fight for freedom doesn't have a deadline. Some of you reporters have deadlines to make your reports, but this fight doesn't have deadline. We will fight until we win. That is the national will of the Iranian people. We are all going to fight until we win. The only question is, what are the elements that can expedite it? And the immediate issue remains, what will hurt the regime most by dismantling its apparatus of state terror and repression? A lot of it are the regime's